Few places in America have the distinction of being founded by European royalty, but New Braunfels, Texas is one such place. Possessing a storied past ripe with tales of hard work, spass, and success, this tight-knit German community is certainly unique. The innovations are noteworthy. New Braunfels is home to several firsts in the state, including the first manufacturer of paper, the first brewery, the first German newspaper, and the first uphill water coaster in the world.
We've got so many amenities. We've got, the best water park in the world. We've got festivals you wouldn't believe. We've got green, we've got shopping, we've got so much here. Other towns I've been to the same size don't compare.
We've got the resources.
The quality of life is great.
Many of the oldest businesses in Texas can also be found here, like Henny Hardware, Nagelin's Bakery, and Green Hall.
They had a very common denominator, and that is their work ethic.
Funded by the Adelsverein Immigration Company, early settlers not only carved out a life from the wilderness, but they brought with them their education and skills, steeped from a culture with centuries of refinement. By the 1920s, Comal County had established itself as a manufacturing and shipping center, though agriculture had been essential since day one.
In 1845, they had their town lot, then they had an outside lot to where they would farm, so you had to be self-sufficient.
They didn't import any food. If you wanted food, you had to grow it.
As agricultural production expanded, so too did the scale of industry, and German craftsmanship quickly became synonymous with outstanding quality.
When manufacturing came in, our population shifted.
Tractors got bigger and farms got smaller, and New Braunfels became a mill town.
Gins and mills subsequently dominated the economic landscape for nearly 150 years. The early pioneers of industry included names like Holkamp, Kester, Hoffman, Landa, and Dittlinger, whose mills would later become ADM and Servtex. The largest of the New Braunfels mills was Mission Valley.
I got to know Mr. McKenna well. I had a lot of respect for him. So I stayed with them from '66 through '74, I think it was. I wouldn't have traded that period of my life for anything.
By 1982, a handful of manufacturers employed almost 30% of the labor force in Comal County. Though these numbers would drop drastically due to increased competition overseas, adaptive companies would remain like Dean Word Construction, TXI, CEMEX, who invested nearly $250 million to expand their plant in 2008, and the undeniably delicious New Braunfels Smokehouse.
Smoked meats and sausage are pretty much synonymous with the German community. Basically started in 1945, and our processing facility is still in the same building in which it was originally established. That was the New Braunfels Brewing Company. It was built in about 1916.
Manufacturing is a very basic money producer. Tourism, of course, has become our manufacturer, but that doesn't preclude having manufacturing as another source. The broader base you can have, the better off you are.
And I think today we're blessed that we have a growing and thriving community, provided for quality jobs to keep our young people here.
I came back because I needed a job, but I stayed because I loved it. We have a lot of opportunities for young professionals to make a name for themselves and build their businesses and be successful.
The plan was always to start the business, save up and buy a house in Austin and go back to Austin. And the longer we lived here, I would say within 6 months of living here, we said, no, we're going to stay here.
Family-owned and operated businesses is the backbone of this community. My dad started his insurance and real estate business in 1949. And now today, my daughter Tracy, the third generation, is running that company. That's pretty cool.
Downtown New Braunfels became the heart of the community, and happily enough, is in the process of revitalization, with businesses like Seacat's Opera House, the Phoenix Saloon, and McAdoo's Restaurant. While other large conglomerates like Great American Products, Walmart Distribution Center, and HD Supply now call New Braunfels home. The specialization of services led to important advances in healthcare. Dr. Theodore Kester was the first physician in New Braunfels, arriving with the founders in 1845.
The original Medical care that was provided here started in an old German Protestant church that's located where First Protestant Church is located today.
Not surprising then that in 1892, the New Braunfelser Krankenhaus, or sick house, was erected.
Well, my father was a doctor here at the old New Braunfels Krankenhaus.
My grandfather was one of the first dentists in town. You know, he was paid in chickens and eggs and possibly sausage.
Seeing the need to keep his workforce at the Mission Valley Mill healthy and productive, businessmen Howard McKenna and Alfred Liebscher led a fundraising effort in 1953 to build the official New Braunfels Hospital on a park across the river in Komalstadt. The New Braunfels Hospital changed its name to McKenna Memorial Hospital upon Howard McKenna's passing. And in 2008, Christus Santa Rosa acquired McKenna to expand medical offerings locally and stop the costly outmigration of services.
And with the development that you see Christus Santa Rosa, New Braunfels undertaking, with the work that Resolute is undertaking to clinically integrate the community, I think we'll see health and healthcare become one of the most important industries in our community.
Nearly a century ago, the Greater New Braunfels Chamber of Commerce was formed to maximize the entrepreneurial efforts of the business community. One of the more notable accomplishments occurred in 1936, when Pete Nowotny and the Junior Chamber successfully negotiated the sale of land apart to the city for $80,000. A week after the bonds were issued and the purchase completed, 1,000 volunteer citizens showed up with tools and trucks in hand to clean up the beloved park.
So what separates New Braunfels from other communities is the volunteers that we have here.
If you become involved in it and give to this town, it gives back to you.
If you want to be successful in our community, engaging with the Chamber of Commerce is an essential element to your business plan.
A railroad baron of Rockefeller fame laid a special track in 1897, taking tourists from San Antonio to land the park, laying the foundation of the New Braunfels tourism industry as we know it today. While the roots of Green's Americana past lie in agriculture, its branches have evolved into a mecca for tourism.
Yeah, we stumbled across the dance hall in 1975, and we didn't spend a whole lot on interior design, you know.
In 1872, Henry Green began to build his cotton empire on 6,000 acres of land. Henry's credited for making the longest trail ride in American history. Green had a bank, post office, school, general store, lumber yard, grist mill, saloon, and cotton gin. Thankfully, this village is now a nationally registered historic district, where you can dine in the old grist mill under the iconic water tower, or boogie on down to live music at the oldest continuous dance hall in Texas, Green Hall. The county grew rapidly after World War II and boomed after 1970.
There was the founding of our community with Prince Solms and Herman Seeley and all the folks we hear about and read about in the early 1960s. There was also a group of leaders in town that saw that this community and the state really was at a crossroads. You could remain an agrarian-based society, or you could embrace a 20th century future at the time. They determined that in order to do that, they needed to have a diverse number of industries. They wanted to promote our unique German heritage as a tourism draw.
We've got sausage makers, we've got beer distributors. Let's get them together for them to compare their recipes. Basically, have a party.
Why don't we have a little competition? We'll call it Wurstfest.
It was created for the purpose of bringing visitors to New Braunfels in the off-season. We estimate our attendance to be an average of about 100,000.
1964 marked the opening of the geological treasure known as Natural Bridge Caverns. Seeing the benefit of compounding tourism efforts, the Wiest family opened the Natural Bridge Wildlife Ranch next door in 1984.
We have so many things in this town that are national quality. We have Schlitterbahn that wins Best Water Park, and I think they've won it for 74 years in a row.
Schlitterbahn had a humble beginning in 1979 when it opened with just 4 water slides. Bob and Billy Henry purchased the 40-acre Landa Resort and the 25-acre Camp Warneke, slowly transforming the park into what exists today.
So Dad went from being a certified public accountant to being a laborer and a builder of rooms and a builder of rides. Myself, my brother, and sister all followed. Our projects have been highlighted in over 1,000 parks around the world today.
Since 1979, tourists wanting a relaxing float down the river have been served by tubing outfitters like Rock and R. While a 70-acre water sports paradise on Interstate 35 called Texas Ski Ranch opened its doors in 2001 to deliver more high-octane thrills and spills. Water has been a constant source of commerce for this community since Prince Solm staked his claim back in 1845. But perhaps adaptation is the real beauty of New Braunfels. Through the ever-changing landscape of expansion, it has maintained its roots.
We're going to another level.
The face of New Braunfels is changing, but not the culture.
There's something unique and special about New Braunfels. It's a community that's ready to embrace change for the better.
New Braunfels is still making waves even today, whether by being named America's favorite farmers market or its #1 water park. While there will nonetheless continue to be torrents in the river, the citizens here always manage to find a way to navigate the waterways together.
I remember when we had to buy poll tax to vote.
Oh, God.
Yes.
That's like a zillion years ago.
Yeah, but you had to buy. Poll tax to vote.
Here in New Braunfels, you had a poll tax? I didn't know that. See, I learned something again. You paid to vote?
Yeah. Yeah. All kinds of things like that. Oh, yeah. There's nothing wrong with it.